Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Dose. I am so honored that you are here. If you are somebody who's watching on Facebook, would you go ahead and share this onto your personal page so that we can continue to get the word out to more and more people? And if you're watching on YouTube, I want to invite you to hit subscribe so that you can continue to get the updates daily after day. And if you're joining us on cable channel 181, we are so thankful and honored that you are here. Thanks again for joining us for the middle part of our series that we are calling Messy Spirituality. How some of us, well, maybe most of us, we find our spiritual lives to be a little bit messy. This is the series for you. Our lives are sometimes incomplete and inexperienced and imperfect and unpolished and unfinished and untidy, if we're really honest. And if you missed the other parts of this series, you can go ahead and go back to our website or go to YouTube and get yourself all caught up. So today is part 3 of this series, and we're going to talk about resisting the resistors. Today is our topic. We're going to talk about the people who get in the way and kind of sabotage our messy spirituality. How do we overcome those voices that want to just seem to sabotage our life of faith when we are just doing the very best we can? Those voices that seem to just be telling us that we are doing it all wrong. Mike Yaconelli, the author of the book Messy Spirituality, suggests that they come in various categories, and he calls these the silencers, the comfortables, and the condemners. So let's talk about the silencers. This is just as old as biblical times. In Luke chapter 18, there's the story of a blind man who's sitting by the side of the road, and he hears this commotion and a crowd kind of coming by him, and he asks what's going on. And someone told him, Jesus of Nazareth is coming by. And at this point, the blind man, he just starts to cry out. He starts to shout, Jesus, Jesus, have mercy on me. And then the crowd does something weird. They begin to silence this blind man. They sit there and say, shh, shh, be quiet. The Bible uses this crazy word called rebuke, and they tell him, shh, keep quiet, keep quiet. Friends, I think so many of us have been silenced, or we've been shushed. We may have had this idea that our idea of God didn't fit into someone else's vision of what God was like, and so we are dismissed and we are silenced. And so we keep quiet because we're not sure how to reconcile our experience of God with what these other people are telling us. And it doesn't match up sometimes, and so we quiet ourselves and then we don't share it. It doesn't match up with the status quo or the boxes that we sometimes like to put God in. And so our faith has become silenced. Or sometimes it's something that's been stirred up inside you and something that's kind of bring out some excitement, like a dream or a vision or a way to help people. But we know that it doesn't really fit into the expectations that others have for us, and so we are silenced. We see the blind man had stirred up in him, and he resisted the silencers. He shouted louder and louder until Jesus turned to him. And when Jesus came near, Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord, I want to see," the blind man said. And Jesus says to him, "Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you." So this makes me wonder, have you been shushed by the silencers? Have they tried to quiet you? Another sabotager, another resistor of messy spirituality is what we're going to call the comfortables. A couple of years ago, I ran an after-school program for inner-city children in Des Moines, and it was an evangelism activity, but it was also a way to care for our neighborhood's children after school on their early out days. They would get out 2 hours early, and we'd bring them all to the church to do something positive and to talk about Jesus. And after running this program for 3 years, I finally had built up enough relationship with one family that they came with their 5 kids to the church on Sunday morning to just check us out. I mean, it was so awesome. I was so excited when this family all marched their way in. And they were so proud to be there because they had been there for the after-school program, and they wanted to show their parents how this worked. So they sat down right there in the second pew. And one of the kids, he looked up at the stained glass window that had Martin Luther of the Lutheran Church's picture on it, and he looks up and he goes, "Hey, Angie, is that Jonah Hill?" It was awesome. And it was the first neighborhood family that had ever been seen in this church in a really, really long time. And the family had no idea what to do in church. I mean, honestly, if you've never been in a church before, it's a really different kind of thing. And they were in a traditional worship service. So it's kind of a weird deal. Like you sit down and you stand up and you pass plates and you sing songs and then you have communion, this little meal in the middle. And it's very, very strange, let's be honest, if you've never ever done it. And so this family and I, we just muddled our way through this first worship service. And afterwards, after the service, and the kids were wild. After the service, though, this woman came up to me, an older woman in the church, and she said to me, Angie, those children have no idea how to behave in church. And I was like, yeah, it was their first time in church. Because you see, their rowdiness, their unknowing, it made her uncomfortable. The kids were comfortable, but it made her uncomfortable because church had fit into this comfortable routine. And this new family who didn't know how to do it, it made people uncomfortable. It added a level of messiness to how church was done. And this happened with Jesus too. If we look in the Bible, he made people uncomfortable over and over again, and he pushed on how religion was supposed to work. You see, messy spirituality, it makes us uncomfortable. It admits that we sort of invented the right and wrong way to do Christianity. And if you're following Jesus, let's be honest, it's going to make you uncomfortable. So the last group of resistors to messy spirituality, I'm going to call the condemners. I think in our world, we see the condemners mostly right now on social media. Good, well-meaning Christians on both sides of politics arguing and condemning the people who have the opposite view of them. So convicted in their thinking that they think, oh, over there on that side, they cannot possibly be as Christian as I am. And they truly believe this, and they fight for this back and forth on both sides. Author Mike Yaconelli suggests that nothing makes people more angry in the church than grace. And I think he's probably right. It's thinking like, I know that I have done some things wrong in my life, but that's absolutely nothing compared to what the mess is of that person. Surely I deserve some grace, but whew, not them. You see, the condemners, they want to pick and choose by how they live, by who is worthy of Jesus, who is worthy of God's love. And friends, we need to resist this because God's grace is so much bigger than we could ever possibly imagine. The condemners, they want to think that they have all the answers because they can feel some sense of control over who's in and who's out in the kingdom of God. But yet in messy spirituality, we stand there in our vulnerability and we realize that we are all a mess. We are all the blind man sitting at the side of the road shouting, Jesus, have mercy on me. We are in this mess together. So I'll leave you with these questions for you to think about today as we resist the resistors that are pushing against and sabotaging our messy spirituality. So here's my question. First question is this. What messages have you heard from other people that have put a barrier to your spiritual journey? And the second is, can someone be godly or spiritual even if they don't have the best habits? Why or why not? Talk about those with the people around you. Invite them to watch in this daily dose. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey. With this heart open wide from the depths, from the heights, I will bring a sacrifice. With these hands lifted high, hear my song, hear my cry. I will bring a sacrifice. I will bring a sacrifice. Hey, I lay me letting go of my pride, giving up all my rights. Take this life and let it shine, shine, shine. Take this life and let it shine. Sing! I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Whoa, hand on my heart, this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. Whoa, lay me down, lay me down, lay me down. It will be my joy to say your will, your way. It will be my joy to say